Well, Happy New Year, everyone. 2026 is upon us. So come on in, have a seat. Join me this week as I go over some things about the Colorado Avalanche over the last, would have been 2 weeks. Welcome, everyone, to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Unfortunately, Brit will not be joining me today. Out on holiday, still family vacation stuff wrapping up. So she won't be with us this week, but next week we're going to have the whole gang here. And we're going to go ahead and go over New Year's resolutions that week. As far as things we'd like to see for the Colorado Avalanche, I'll save my opinions, and I'm pretty sure you already know where I'm headed with mine for next episode. But this episode, just wanted to get some things out as far as game recaps, kind of where we sit, where everything's at. And like I said, next week we'll do New Year's resolutions for the remainder of the 2025-2026 NHL season for the Colorado Avalanche. So that being said, before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Okay. So we have a good number of games to get to, as well as some more recent games that unfortunately have resulted in Avalanche losses in regulation. It's been a while since I've said that. And to make matters worse, there's two of them right in a row. So we'll get to that in all just a second, and then we'll kind of talk about what's been going down, if there's need to worry. Spoiler, really there's not. But we'll discuss it all here in just a second. But let me kind of rewind the clock to last year, 2025, the end of 2025. Let me just kind of quickly brush over the games very quickly, and then we'll kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the actual bit of this episode. Okay, so winding the clocks all the way back to December 21st of last year, the Avalanche win against the Minnesota Wild in Minnesota with a score of 5-1. So I'm going to have to do a lot of recollection from all this stuff. Now, if I remember correctly, the excuse me, the Avalanche kind of had this game more or less under wraps. And when I say that, I mean, Martin Necas, I mean, he gets his 16th of the season. The only goal, the first period, again, toward the end of a period as their closeout. Second period, McKinnon and Makar get one, both on the power play, by the way, which that is huge. And you're going into the third period with a 3-0 lead, okay, which usually for the Avalanche's sake is awesome. Okay, it's excellent. And for a good third period team like they are, you really don't have that much to fear. Third period, Ryan Hartman does get one to put them within two. But to me, as soon as Brock Nelson scored that fourth goal for the Avalanche, it felt pretty much over. And then Nathan McKinnon gets an empty netter to put it away at 5-1. Very shocking, this game. I was kind of expecting it to be, ever since the Quinn Hughes trade. Sorry, I got something in my throat. I might be drinking some water throughout this episode. Ever since Quinn Hughes got traded to the Wild, I was really, and they have really gone up, gotten, achieved that new echelon of play. I was kind of expecting it to be more of that type of, really close playoff hockey kind of feel. And it just kind of wasn't, honestly. Mackenzie Blackwood did an excellent job stopping 28 of 29, had a 9.66 save average. I mean, he did a very, very good job in this game. So 5-1 was that score. The next, excuse me, let me grab some water before I over here suffocate. Okay, let's see if that fixes things. Okay, the next game, just right before the Christmas holiday, the Utah Mammoth come into town, and you beat them with a score of 1-0. It was a shutout, yes, but this one, again, all of these games against Utah have been very, very close. And this one was a very good game. The only goal was Sam Girard's in the second period. Other than that, both goalies played out of their mind. Wedgwood, I remember several of Wedgwood saves. Vitek Vanacek, because Karel Vemelka was out with an injury, a lower upper body injury, I believe. But Vanacek and Wedgwood, it was really a battle of the goaltenders. This one felt like it should have been a playoff caliber game. And it was just great. I mean, the three stars that ESPN gave, two of which were Wedgwood and Vanacek for the Utah Mammoth. And again, Wedgwood did some incredible saves. There was even a very controversial buzzer beating potential goal. There was a save that was, Wedgwood's glove over the line when he made a catch. It had everything. But at the end of the day, it's a 1-0 game, and honestly, this one might have been defensively probably one of the better games I've seen from both teams, but from the Avalanche especially, to have a good shutdown or defense against a very potent and offensively talented team in Utah. They did a very good job, and they did exactly what they needed to do in getting this win. And in my opinion, probably one of Scott Wedgwood's best games that he's had this season, maybe even closer to his career, if you ask me. It was extremely, extremely good to watch, extremely fun to watch. And for Sam Girard to get his first or second goal of the season, it was even more delightful because he, in my opinion, should kind of be scoring more. He deserves more goals, I guess is one way to put it. Okay, so then you have the Christmas break. After that, you go to Vegas and you play the Golden Knights and you win this game in a high octane, high offensive scoring game in shootouts. 6-5 is the final score. And holy crap, was this game all over the place. Excuse me. First period, the only goal scored is from Holtz, his first of the season. And that's it, 1-0 going into the second period. Again, to me, at the time, I was thinking everything's fine. It's going to be fine. You're only down 1-0. There's not going to be much of a problem. Well, then Ivan Barbashev, second period, gets a rather quick goal. I believe 30 seconds or so into the second period. You're down 2-0 all of a sudden. Well, Sam Girard, Martin Necas tie it right back up. You go from down 2-0 to tie 2-2. Everything's great. We're going to be great. Second period, within the span of about a minute and a half, maybe even less than a minute, Hutton and Howden both get goals for Vegas, and now all of a sudden you're down 4-2 going into the third period. For the first time in a long time, you are down going into a third period. And this is where it really takes this third period Colorado Avalanche team that I know exists, that we all know exists, to come out and play to the best of their abilities. And they do, which is crazy. Necas and McKinnon, 2 goals. So it's you're down, you tie it. You're down, you tie it. It's incredible. With 4 minutes left, Colton Sissons gets a goal, and you're down 5-4. And at this point, to me, I was like, obviously you're going to need to pull the goalie, but you're going to have to stay disciplined in the offensive zone. You have to have that sustained offensive time, and you have to shoot. You have to find whatever lane, find whatever hole, find whatever screen, and just shoot. And lo and behold, with about a little less than 2 minutes left, Arturi Lehkonen, this is off of an empty net for us, so we have that 6-on-5. Arturi Lehkonen gets that goal, and it sends it to overtime. So at that point, I was kind of taking a breath of fresh air. I was like, hey, it's fine. We can lose in overtime because overtimes do not treat us well. Overtime plus, I guess, is one thing I'll say, just does not treat us well for some reason. And overtime, as fun as it was, nothing. No goals, great opportunities, a lot of puck holding, that's for sure. Possession was very much kind of a keep away game rather than a let's do something with it game. But then shootouts, and this is the crazy one. Our choices against Carter Hart were Ross Colton, Martin Necas, Nathan McKinnon. Natchez McKinnon, I'm totally fine with. Colton, again, an interesting choice. Not to say that I don't think he's bad at shootouts. He just wouldn't have been my first choice. Anyway, so Ross Colton gets his shot gets saved. Pavel Dorofiev, his shot goes wide left. Natchez and Marner both score, so you're 1-1 after 2 shots. Nichushkin misses. Smith misses. So then you go into that fourth and extra frame of shootouts. McKinnon, his shootout was very interesting in that he speeds up, slows right down in the slot, and then fires and gets it past Carter Hart. Really excellent job. It's probably been a long time since I've seen him pull that kind of a move during a shootout, so it was extremely nice to see. It goes by. Holtz misses his shot wide, and the Avalanche finally get a win in not only shootouts but overtime plus. Wedgwood did an okay job. Not the best as far as save percentage, but then again, this was kind of more of an offensive delight kind of game, especially when you have a score of 6-5. So he did okay, but the percentage is not going to show great because he stopped only 20 of 25 or 25 of 30. Not exactly the best, but you get the win. Everything's cool, everything's great, and then you move on to the next game, where the Avalanche host the LA Kings. And to be completely honest, I don't necessarily want to call this game boring because I don't think it was, but it just didn't have that spark that usually these types of games do have or should have. Jack Drury is the only goal scorer in the first period, and that's great, right? He did a very good job. He had a great look and took it. Great goal. First period lead, right? That's all you need to ask for. That's a great thing for the Avs going into the second period. Well, Corey Perry gets a power play goal, which is, again, he ties the game. I'm not too worried about it. And lo and behold, 2 more goals the rest of this period, both belonging to the Avalanche. Natchez with his 19th, Nelson with his 15th. Okay. And now you're going into the third period up to everything's great. But then a shorthanded goal gets scored by Joel Armia. And it's one of those where it's like, I don't feel like it was a big momentum shifter, but it was a very disappointing one because, again, your power play, I have opinions on this power play. I don't like it. Oh, not really. Not at all, actually. Not a big fan of how this power play is set up. And this is kind of one of those where, for like the first time in a long time, I thought to myself, good, we deserve that. That shorthanded goal that Armia scored. And the Avalanche kind of took that to heart and said, okay, we kind of need to, kick this into gear. Well, it's 3-2, but I never thought about, well, what if LA takes the lead, ties it and then takes the lead? I just thought, at worst, honestly, they tie it. And at this point, yeah, sure. I was kind of accepting it, to be honest with you. But then Nathan McKinnon gets the empty netter. I think, it's obviously put away. Cale McCarr pots another one just for insurance, despite there still being a goalie in net. And they win this game 5-2. Close games don't always mean they were good games. Okay. I'm just going to say that right now. This game just didn't have that sell for me. There was a lot of errors on both teams. It just, didn't really move the meter all that much for me. It's a win, and that's good. But as far as like the excitometer, it was like less than 25%. It was just kind of one of those that they both seem like they're just ready to get out of there and not play each other for a little bit. However, the next game against St. Louis, the Avalanche, they beat the brakes off the Blues, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for us, unfortunately for them. 6-1 is the final score. Val Nichushkin gets a hat trick. Nathan McKinnon puts another goal in. Brock Nelson has another goal. And again, this game, apart from Dvorsky getting kind of that, that shutout ruiner goal, where it's like the game's already out of hand. It's a third period goal. It's, less than 5 minutes, and he gets that, and you're just like, okay, well, that's just rude. You're trying to get a shutout, and that goal just kind of ruins it, but you're still so far ahead that it doesn't really matter. The game was just, I don't even know what happened. Okay. The big factor I can see, the Avalanche had 43 shots on goal. Okay. St. Louis had 13 total the entire game, shots on goal. Yeah, yikes. That's definitely not one of St. Louis's finer outings. Again, Mackenzie Blackwood does a great job, saves 12 of 13, and again, this is one of those where it's just you're winning, you're finding these ways to win, and that's the important and key factor of this whole thing, is you're finding these ways to win, whether it's complete dominance, you're holding people off like with Utah, you come back like you did against Vegas, or you just sheer and utter dominance like they did with St. Louis, like they did against Minnesota. You're finding these ways to win. Okay. And one of them that I still want to talk about next, as we go into this now, the new year 2026, is this game against the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, before I go into this 3-game stand where you play the Hurricanes, Panthers, and Lightning, the big, bad, kind of deep South road trip, it's not easy. Especially when all 3 teams are good. That's the thing. It takes a toll on the body. It's difficult. Okay. And sure enough, in this road trip that they lose 2 out of the 3 in regulation, bringing your regulation loss total to 4, doubled since 3 games prior. First of all, that's insane to say, and it's impressive to say. Let me say that. But it just, being used to winning all this time, for the fan that just keeps seeing win, these 2 losses, it hurts. But for the seasoned, for the trained eye, all that kind of stuff, 2 losses back to back, it happens. Okay. And we knew at some point in the season, more regulation losses were going to come. Okay. So am I worried about it? No, not really. In fact, I shouldn't even say not really. I'm just not worried about it, because losses are supposed to happen. You don't want them to, obviously, but they just do happen. So let me go into the Hurricanes game first, because it was the Whalers versus Nordiques. Everyone's wearing their retros. In Carolina, it was a very, again, aesthetically pleasing game. And this one was another come from behind type of win, especially this one being a 3rd period monster from the Nordiques, as they win this game 5-3 against Carolina. Sebastian Aho gets things started with a shorthanded goal. Okay. That's 2 games, or I guess 2 out of the last 3 games where you've given up a shorthanded goal. The power play, it's just not effective. It's not working. I have opinions on it. I have opinions on the hire of Dave Hackstall. I'm trying my best to save that for a New Year's resolution for next week when Brit's back. But just know that I'm not pleased with power play, despite the fact that we are at least scoring on some, but we're not taking the advantage like Edmonton might, or the rest of the league for that matter. Sebastian Aho, shorthanded goal. Couple minutes left in the period. They're up 1-0 going into the second period. Early second period, Gabe Landeskog gets his 7th of the season. 7th that actually counted, 12th if you count the ones that were called back or whatever. That was ridiculous. Ehlers and Svechnikov, not too long after that, get 2 goals, and you're down 3-1 now going into the 3rd period. Second time in 2 weeks that this has happened. But this one just feels like the Nordiques at the time were not getting everything put together. Not the chemistry just wasn't exactly there. Communication seemed to be faltering. Like, there was just a lot of stuff that the Avs just weren't doing, that you're like, you need kind of, I don't want to say a miracle, but you need this big third period turnaround if you're going to pull out this win. And they did just that early in the second period, and very, very close to each other too. I believe it was about 30 seconds apart. Brock Nelson power play goal, Jack Drury goal. Game's tied. As soon as that happens, I'm thinking it's anyone's game. The Avalanche have finally found this rhythm that they've been looking for, and they can finally kind of, put the nose to the grindstone and actually kind of grind this one out. And they did. Brock Nelson, a power play goal shortly after. Then Nathan MacKinnon pots a goal, not an empty netter, but it was a very, very late goal just to, keep things out of reach. And they win this game. This one was impressive to me. Okay. This is one of those, I'm going to go back and look at it and say, a loss is a loss. You should have just, tallied that and moved on to the next game, but they didn't. Okay. This was that no quit mentality, very similar to this one like they did in Vegas, where they came back, lost the lead, came back, lost the lead, came back 3 times in that game, by the way. This one felt a lot more difficult in that Carolina's defense was stellar. Their goaltending was stellar. Everything about that team, how they played, was great. And it took this offensive willpower to go and get the lead, take the lead, and extend the lead, I should say. And so I was extremely impressed with how this game went. However, with all these ups that have been happening, all these wins, racking one after another, and like I said, losses are bound to come, and it does not shock me that it happens on this particular road trip. Okay. 3 of the top 7 teams were on this road trip. Okay. You go to the Panthers next. Okay. You lose this game in regulation 2-1. Was it winnable in my opinion? Absolutely it was. My opinion on the turning point of this with the momentum was the injury of Gabe Landeskog, where he's coming, he's coming into the net, gets kind of tripped up from behind, kind of loses an edge. It's a gray area, but either way, no malintent or anything like that, but he loses an edge and collides with the post of the net. Luckily, it does come off of its moorings, but it's right in the ribs, right? Excuse me. Right in the ribs. At first, I was worried it was going to be his head. Then I was worried it was going to be his shoulder, but he did turn enough of his body at the time so that it whacked him right in the ribs. Nathan MacKinnon did say that bones heal better than quicker than muscle. So hopefully everything is going to be okay with him. But that was the point where I think the momentum shifted, right? Now, Tarasov himself had a very, very great game. Okay. He played very, very well. And now with Blackwood getting injured again, you're relying on Scott Wedgwood to be that guy for an extended period of time. Okay. And that was the first of his few games to do that. Ironically, or funny enough, I guess I should say, both of Florida's goals were unassisted, which is very rare that you see all the goals be unassisted. I just wanted to point that out. Lehkonen getting the lone goal in the first period for the Avalanche. Was this game winnable? Yes. But did the momentum get sucked out of the building for the Avs? In my opinion, when Landeskog went down, yes. Okay. And that's just kind of how it is. And honestly, if you ask me again, I think that's the effect of what carried over into this most recent game that happened against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They lose that game 4-2. Okay. They just did not have the mojo that they did. They even had a lead in this game. Okay. Gensel, power play goal, the only goal in the first period. 12 seconds left, I think, in the period, and they score. Right? It's fine. It's 1-0. You have the offense to take care of it. Everything will be fine. Parker Kelly, Brock Nelson, 2 goals. You're up 2-1. Zemgus Girgensons, again, late in the second period, ties the game, and you're 2-2 going into the third, and it's just basically an all-out brawl, a giant mosh pit of destruction, as it kind of ended up being. A lot of hard hitting, a lot of hard hurt feelings, I guess I should say, in that third period. Hagel gets that go-ahead goal. Avs can't counter, and Cirelli gets an empty netter to put it away for good. The game, like I said, you just did not have the mojo, and I cannot help but think with Taves getting injured in the Carolina game, which I forgot to mention that earlier. He got injured, took a very, very, I don't want to say it was a dirty hit, but it was kind of just, it was vicious looking. During that game, Landeskog goes out with this, so it's back-to-back injuries, and you're just thinking, oh my gosh, can this get any worse? To me, I just feel like that's mental carryover from what happened in Florida to this game. Do the Avs have the offense to do it? Yes, of course they do. They had the lead, okay? But in this game, there were just so many little mistakes, so many little things, and a good Tampa Bay Lightning team. Again, you have to give credit to the fact that Tampa's good. Tampa plays good hockey, and it just was too much for the Avalanche. And so you have back-to-back for the first time this season, back-to-back regulation losses, okay? Which, again, let me reiterate, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Nothing's broken. Nothing, don't sell the team. Don't sell the farm. It's fine. I'm not worried. But it does sting a little when especially at least one of those games was winnable. In fact, both of them were. It, to me, just feels like this came from something off the ice, something eating at him. Very similar to those Nichushkin episodes that were had in the postseason for the last few years, or I guess a couple of seasons and 2-3 seasons ago. It just felt like that, where there was that mental weight that you could see being held over their heads. And that's, again, that's my opinion. If you have something else, let me know. I mean, send me a message. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Send us a DM, let us know. But that's kind of where I'm kind of gathering this, as your captain went down again after he got called to Sweden, by the way, which, again, all the announcements for team stuff and all that stuff, I'm saving for next week. But for those of you who do know, plenty of Avalanchemen got called to their country's teams for the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina. But anyway, Gabe Landeskog's one of them for Team Sweden. His injury happens at a very, very tough time. You're just going to have to see what happens. Okay. So that being said, games, which there's only a few that I do want to talk about. I think 3. The big what if factor is going to be these injuries for the next little bit, at least, with Mackenzie Blackwood, with Devon Taves, with Gabe Landeskog, right? And they said Taves should be back in a couple of weeks. Landeskog maybe a week or 2 after. So hopefully he's back in time for the Olympics. I'd like to believe he will be. But they're coming at a very interesting time, because obviously the Avalanche have a very, very large lead in the league, in the division, in the conference, you name it. They have a large enough lead that, and with Dallas continually losing all of a sudden, everything's going to be fine, right? So like the Avs, 31-4-7, great record, okay? Stupidly good record, 69 points so far, okay? The next one behind them is Dallas, and they're at 58. They're 11 points behind at 10 regulation losses. Right behind that, and with also 58 points, is Minnesota. So let's think about this, okay? Your top 3 teams in the NHL are the top 3 teams in the Central Division, and the Avalanche still stand 11 points above both Minnesota and Dallas. And that's despite them losing now 2 games back-to-back. So really, everyone needs to relax. We're going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine. But the injuries are one where it's like, at this point in time, and I'm not using it as an excuse, but you could see these falters begin to happen, where more regulation losses potentially could pepper through the system. Okay. Now, do I honestly care if the Avs go after that Boston Bruins record back a few years ago, where Boston just leveled the playing field and they did all that, do I care if they beat that record? No. I really don't. Not just because the expectation becomes too high or anything like that. It just doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is winning the Stanley Cup. And yeah, you could have a great regular season. Boston proved they did, and they immediately lost in the first round. It's that postseason that matters. And the better position you can secure yourself, the better, because that home ice advantage, and I cannot stress that enough, home ice advantage in the playoffs plays such a huge factor when it comes to these long, anywhere from 4 to 7 game series. It plays a difference, subtly, but mentally it kind of fortifies how it, a team plays. So again, you just kind of want to rack up these wins and get that big enough lead where you clinch the division quickly. It's to a point where mathematically no one can beat you and you'll be okay. And to have home ice advantage all the way through, those are the reasons why I want to see this team keep winning. But these injuries with your captain, with one of your top defensemen, and your goalie, who again, they're the same, Wedgwood and Blackwood, that's the one that's going to strain a little bit. So don't be surprised with, a potential couple more regulation losses, or at least overtime losses, because I'm worried that these injuries are going to start to plague the Avs. I excuse me, I hope not, but that's my worry. Okay, so something to just keep an eye on. Again, with the schedule coming up, I don't necessarily know which of these could be those scheduled losses, but let me go into these upcoming games. There's 3 of them that I want to talk about, and like I said, we'll keep this episode a little bit shorter because the big one, the big talking points I'm saving for when Brit gets here next week. So for those of you watching at this time, the Senators are in town, and they will be playing the Avalanche Thursday, January 8th, 7 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop. And this is a Senators team who, again, they made the playoffs last year. They're making an okay push this year. If I actually go to the standings right now, let me see exactly where they are. Dead last in the Atlantic Division, which is crazy because despite all that, they're only 10 points behind first place in the Atlantic Division. This entire Eastern Conference is so sandwiched together where you could blanket all of these teams in 12 points. That's a 6-game spread, and you still have a half a season to go. A lot of jockeying for position. So despite the fact that they're second to last in the Eastern Conference and last in the Atlantic Division, with a winning record, mind you, does not mean this game is to be taken lightly. Okay. The big key to the game for me is all going to wrap around Ottawa forward Tim Stützle. Okay, he has been very, very good so far. 45 points, 19 goals, 26 assists. He knows how to zip that puck around. He knows where to put it. He knows when to put it. Okay. His play combined with Linus Ullmark, and he's starting to kind of obviously come into his own there in Ottawa, and it's that offensive mind of they're kind of playing this as a game of chess. Okay, where's Stützle putting the puck? What is Stützle going to do? If you, similar to when I said with the Islanders, if you shut down Horvat, you shut down the offense. I'm going to say that with this Senators team. If you shut down Stützle, you shut down the Senators team. Okay. It's going to be interesting, especially with Solovyov. That's he's going to be playing extended time with Taves out. Wedgwood's probably going to be getting a big slew of starts. Maybe Trent Miner gets 1 or 2 of them within this little bit of time, but you don't want to fatigue people, your goalie specifically, but the defensive substitutes need to step in. Okay, because Stützle knows, like I said, how to dish this puck around and get it to where it needs to go. With Tkachuk and all those players that Ottawa has, and they have again a very good offensive team, but it is spearheaded by Stützle. So that's my key to the game for the game against the Ottawa Senators. You take care of Stützle. I think you take care of the offense. Okay, next game, Saturday, January 10th, 2 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Okay, Columbus is the only team Ottawa is above in the Eastern Conference, so naturally Ottawa is very, very low in the Metropolitan Division. Key to the game for this one, again, Columbus, again, then they have a winning record too. Okay, just let it be known. This one, they are very defensively oriented so far. Okay, with Werenski, I believe, leading the points, leading the goals, leading the assists. I believe so. Yeah, in all three of those categories. But Jet Greaves has kind of become this goalie emerged, self-proclaimed star in the making, and honestly, it goes to show he's done a very okay job. However, my key to the game against Columbus is probably going to be the fact that as long as you're keeping them confused, then you're okay. And when I say that, I mean when you're in the offensive zone and the puck is just getting pass, and then shot, like those tic-tac-toe passes, those to me feel like it's Columbus's Achilles heel. In fact, Columbus currently is losing 2-0 to the Sharks, and I know the Sharks do these tic-tac-toe passes very, very well. So I think that's my key to the game. I think that's what I'm going to put, is to keep the puck moving, keep their defense confused. And as long as you're able to do that, despite how well Jet Greaves may play, eventually you'll break him. And I think eventually you should have this could be one of those 5-2, 5-1 type of wins, as long as A, the foot's still on the gas, B, you're taking advantage of this offensive zone time, whether you're on the power play or not, which honestly, that's the same. It's the same at this point. As long as you're keeping that puck movement going, you're finding that open man, quick passes, laser passes in the slot, whatever it is, quick shots, quick puts, turnaround shots, whatever. As long as it's quick and it's efficient and it's good, I think that's going to be the key. Okay, is they are not a quick reaction timed team as far as what I've seen. So that's my key to the game for Columbus. Again, should be a good game. Columbus has a lot of fun players to watch, and like I said, it's very exciting to see Jet Greaves come into his own. With Merzlikins getting called up to his national team, they have a lot going right for them. But again, being dead last in the Eastern Conference, it sounds rough, but considering that small span of first to last, they're really not that bad. Okay, so that's the key to the game for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Next game, Monday, January 12th, 8 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop. This is going to be a late one. The lovely Toronto Maple Leafs are in town. Now that they have Austin Matthews back, I think the easy key to the game is just it's offense versus offense. Similar to what I'd say against Edmonton, similar to what I'd say against Tampa, similar to what I'd say with Vegas. It's offense versus offense in this case. That doesn't necessarily mean whose goaltender is going to let in less. It's going to mean whose offense is going to break the goaltenders first, because both goaltenders do a very, very good job. Okay, well, any goaltender, I should say, for Toronto does a pretty good job. Now, as far as Toronto is concerned in their standings, just to keep everyone aware, they're third to last with 47 points. But again, with that such minor spread, it does not mean a whole ton. They have a 20-15-7 record. They finally are getting back into this offensive rhythm. Okay, and their last few games, they beat the Panthers, they've beaten the Jets. They did lose to the Islanders in overtime, but they still took a point out of it. So they've at least started to attain these points. And I think that's just it, is this Nylander / Austin Matthews / John Tavares / whatever, whoever else you want it to be. They can pick up chemistry very, very quickly if momentum allows them to do that. Okay. And so that's kind of where the Avalanche's offense needs to come in and quickly dispel that, quickly get rid of it. Otherwise, you run that risk of having this offense that knows how to pass. They have a really good team chemistry. Despite Mitch Marner getting traded or sign and trade, whatever you want to call it, to the Vegas Golden Knights, they still have a very, very good team. So I think, like I said, key to the game is going to be make sure the Avalanche's offense has the tools they need, does the job they need to do to kind of nullify Toronto's offense, if that makes any sense. So that's going to be my key to the game for them. And I think those are the only 3 games, that I want to do. Yeah. Okay. So that being said, we still have a hockey hit of the week before we wrap up today's episode. So because it's the new year and because the Avalanche are winning still at a miraculously high clip, there is reason to celebrate, right? It's the new year. So many New Year's resolutions being made, so many that are probably broken already, but there's still good reason to celebrate because the Avs are playing great hockey. Okay, so there's so many reasons to celebrate, which is why my New Year's / hockey hit of the last few weeks is going to be Celebration by Kool and the Gang. If you haven't listened to that one, it's a real good feel-good music. Just give it a listen. If I've said the name and you don't think you know it, trust me, you've heard it before. Celebration by Kool and the Gang is my hockey hit of the week. And again, we're going to try and put together a podcast for this to, not a podcast, sorry, playlist, Spotify playlist for this for everyone to go and listen to throughout the season. And we'll get Brit's next week when we do our New Year's resolutions episode. And it should be a lot of fun. So that being said, we're going to run this episode into the ground. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. Again, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said, the rough waters in Florida are gone behind us. We can always start a new win streak, and I think we can do that starting with Ottawa for the very next game. So, with that being said, enjoy the hockey game, everyone, and as always, go Avs, go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.